smelling right, luscious lips, dancing as you walk away.
Hey, what's going on? It's your boy, the Big D. Another episode of the Divorce News Daily Show. We're gonna go ahead and get into some of these situations here and then try to diagnose what we can find from it and just communicate a little bit. So thank you for liking and subscribing to the channel. I see the comments rolling in. I do appreciate that. I like interacting with the public. So anytime you have comments or whatever, definitely leave it. I'll try to respond to you there. So let's get right into this situation here. This one is probably going to be the big one of this episode because it's a problem that's probably a little bit pervasive, even more than we probably know. So it's coming from 98S Girl in the divorce Reddit, and it says, question mainly for the men. All right, so this one's for us. Thoughts on my boyfriend's porn habits. All right, so let's get into this and see what she's saying. She says, please help. What do you think about my boyfriend's porn habits? Well, we don't know because we don't know what his habits really is yet. So we're going to have to find out. I'm 26 and my boyfriend is 30. I'm Latina. And when I met my boyfriend, he told me how much he always dreamed of having a Latina girlfriend and blah, blah, blah. He has never dated a Latina before me, though. We got along so well, and he always compliments me and says how beautiful I am, and he always seems to be so proud to be with me. He always says that I'm his type and dream girl and blah, blah, blah. Right? His family seems to be a bit racist towards the black community. I'm light tan Latina. Then, about 4 months ago, I got drunk and went through his phone and saw his browser history and Instagram Explore page. He watches porn, but not only that, the porn he watches is usually white men with black women. I went and talked to him about it and told him this was disrespectful, and he apologized and said he felt awful for it. Then literally a couple of weeks after that, I found the same stuff on his phone. He was doing it that very same week. All right, so we got a little bit that we can unpack here, right? Sound like my man is in the goon squad, right? So he's definitely got a little something going on there as far as like porn. It couldn't be an addiction. That's an addiction that a lot of people have. It's something that a lot of people, regardless of their relationship status, are kind of drawn to and they're kind of tied to it, right? So it's interesting because at his age, at 30, you would think that, you know, now that he's got a girlfriend and all that stuff, he wouldn't necessarily be too concerned about the porn sites, right? Because you got a nice girl. I think she's saying she's Latina because she's trying to set the stage, which is kind of a stereotype of Latino women being sexy or sexual or beautiful and all that type of thing, right? So she's trying to set that stage. I can kind of get that from what she's saying. So she's basically saying, like, why am I not enough? Why does he have me, who he says is this is his queen, this is the woman that, you know, he's always dreamed of. He's never dated a Latina woman before. You know, why is it that I'm not enough is what she's really saying. I don't think that, you know, it's necessarily about his mental health or anything like that, right? I think she wants to be the main character in his life, and she's got a little bit of that jealousy that kind of comes with some of these women and the relationships, and she's not understanding why he wants to view other women when he has her there. So I think she's not understanding a little bit of the nature of men. Men, we're always the hunter-gatherer, right? So we go out, we eat what we kill type thing. So we're always going to have that kind of built into us on a natural level to desire women. He's only 30 years old, so he might be in a situation where he's not past that point where his hormones and his desires are kind of raging a little bit. So we're always going to be interested if there's a beautiful woman around. And now with the advent of the internet and, you know, the easy availability of seeing women, we're gonna look. That's just the way that it is. We're gonna look because it's in our nature to look and to desire beautiful women. So that's one thing that we got to get out of the way right then. So is it natural for men to want to view beautiful women? Yes, it is. Now, porn can be a lot of things, right? It can go from just pictures to videos and then beyond that, it can actually go into like chatting and things like maybe like an OnlyFans or live situation where you're actually watching someone live. A little bit of, I guess, voyeurism is what the word I'm looking for. It can go into that. So we don't know exactly where he's at with this or whatever, but he's got some stuff on his phone that she can tell that he's watching. Now, she says she got drunk and looked on his phone, but I think being drunk is just an excuse for why she went in. She wanted to go on his phone anyway, just to see what he was doing, right? So we don't know what level he's at or what he's actually participating in. Is he actually communicating or attempting to communicate with women, or is he just looking? Because you can go on IG, you can go on any of these channels and just happen to see women that are scantily clad, right? And if you go a little further, you can go in places and find women that are nude. You're going to find that too. So we don't know exactly where he's at with this, but I think that she's going to have to deal with whether or not this is an activity that she's going to be willing to allow him to participate in, or is it something that's going to break up the relationship? Now, they didn't say they was married. I don't know why she's putting it in a divorce Reddit, because she said it's her boyfriend, but there's still a relationship there, and she's obviously considering the relationship to be somewhat serious. And so now she's got to decide, okay, do I stay with this person or do I not? Does he have an addiction to porn? She doesn't say that she's super adverse to it, because who knows, she might watch it too, right? So, there's always that. It always seems like they talk about the men, but they don't talk about the women that watch porn too. There's a lot of that goes on. So that's a fact too. So this is not just on one side, right? But there's some other things in here that kind of struck me. She said that his family seems to be a bit racist towards the black community. She says she's light tan Latina. So apparently his community is not a black, or person of color, right? And it could be there are other races of, people of color that actually do discriminate against black people or don't like darker skin. Even though they have skin that is not white or Caucasian either. So that being said, he's probably a white guy. I'm gonna guess that just by the fact of what she said at the end here. She says that he usually watches white men with black women. So I'm gonna assume that he's probably a white guy, right? So there may be a little bit of fetishizing there, because maybe it's something that was taboo to his family, that they maybe said things about black women, or maybe had conversation about him not dating black women or Latino women or people of color, right, or women of color. So maybe this might be a thing where it's almost like a conquest thing. It's almost like a rebellious type thing, or something like it goes against what his family was telling him. Because sometimes you tell people stuff, and what do? They actually gravitate to that thing because you told them not to do it. It's the same with drugs, maybe alcohol, all that stuff. If you tell like a teenager or kid, hey, this is a bad thing or whatever, they want to know why it's bad. So they're going to go to it. So if his family is a little bit racist in that way, and they're not, too keen about the black community or whatever, maybe this is his way of experimenting with something that they told him is not, is taboo, or this is something that's not acceptable, and he just has to experience it to understand why. But it seems like he's happy with her. He apparently loves her. She's his dream girl or whatever. So, what you gonna do? Let's see. It says, the worst is that I know that this is affecting our sex life. We barely have sex once a month, and physical touch is so important to me. So now this has become a problem for her, obviously, because the lack of intimacy is there. And maybe the porn that he's watching, maybe he's gooning and stuff, and and now he don't have the energy for her. So that's a real problem. That's going to be a real problem. So he's got to get that under control, or she's going to be seeking someone else. Obviously, she wants physical intimacy with him, and if he's not providing that because he's letting these, pictures and videos get him off, then at some point she's going to be out the door, or she's going to be out in these streets looking for somebody else, right? So he's got to get that together. So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on porn? And is it just entertainment? Is it addictive? Is it something to break up a relationship over? Is it something that, maybe you struggled with and maybe you got away from it? Tell us in the comments. Tell us what you think about it. But and tell us what you think she should do in this situation. How do you think you can help her in this situation? This channel, we talk about everything because these are the things in real life that people are going through. These are real stories from people in real life. So we got to kind of, chat about it. I think once we have the dialogue and the communication about it and don't treat it like it's something that we can't talk about, then we start to get some answers and we might get some direction, right? So let's move on here to Purple Elephant 7711 says, how long did it take your ex to move all their stuff from your house? So that's a good question, right? So I'm the kind of person, like, once I break, I'm ready to break. I don't want your stuff around or whatever like that. Take your stuff wherever you're going. If you don't want to be around me or whatever, don't keep your stuff around me, right? So my ex, once she finally decided to move out or whatever, like, her closet, my closet basically was full of her stuff, so, I didn't want her even just coming back to the house to get stuff or whatever. So this is a big issue. So let's see what they're asking here. She says, my ex and I have been separated for 3 months. He still has stuff at my house. It's not packed. He keeps saying he will come get it, but he never does. I've started gathering his stuff and putting it in a spare room so it's easy for him to get, but he doesn't get it when he's here to pick up our son. Initially, I thought he was leaving it because he thought we'd get back together. But I've seen him on a dating app, which makes me believe he realizes he's not coming back. Anyone ever been in this situation? His stuff is keeping me from making my house my home. I can't use the spare room for what I have planned until his stuff is moved. So, okay, there's a couple things here, right? So he hasn't moved on 100%, at least physically, right? So there's probably something in him that wants to keep the door open for him to go back to where he was. Hey, thanks for checking out The Big D Show. I am The Big D, but I also go by Knock Real Beats, as I am a man of many talents. I'm a hip hop artist, writer, producer. I do it all. So check out the link below in the description and check out some of the music. I think you're going to like it. I'm on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Amazon Music, Tidal, everywhere you want to be. Bandcamp. Support independent artists. This could be a tactic of his. He feels like if he leaves his stuff there, then maybe she won't have another man around, or if another man comes around, he's going to recognize, like, oh, there's some dude's stuff here, and he's not going to want to stay. So he's kind of like blocking her from moving on a little bit by leaving his stuff there, even though, like she says, he's on a dating app. She's seen him on a dating app or whatever. So, he's out there dilly-dallying a little bit and playing the field a little bit, but he's trying to keep the door open for himself. That's what I imagine here. So he's not going to get the hint. Men are not such that we get hints, right? So if you start seeing all your stuff being put into one bedroom in one area, you're going to notice, but you're not going to really, it's not really going to move a man in a way where he's like, oh, wow, she's putting all my stuff in one place, so I probably should grab all my stuff and leave. We gotta wait until you start to pull out the gasoline and light the flame on it. So if it ain't on fire or nothing, we ain't worried about it. It could just stay there or whatever. So it also could mean that he's unstable too. Maybe he don't have a real place to stay. It doesn't say whether he's couch surfing or if he's staying with a friend or something, and maybe it's not a situation wherever he's staying that he can bring all of his stuff with him. So if you're gonna break up with your girl, or you're gonna go out and be in these streets and doing your thing or whatever like that, and create a situation where it's possible that you might be out here in these streets for real with no roof over your head, I would suggest that you have your situation together where you can get your own apartment, you can get your own place, and you can kind of move your stuff and get yourself a clean break. Because the last thing you want to do is still be tied up with this other person, intertwining your lives, because the more your lives are intertwined, the more that you have to interact with this person. This is open up the door. The larger the percentage is going to be that there's going to be some point in time where something's going to go left. And if it goes left, somebody could lose their freedom. Somebody could be in handcuffs going to jail. So in my mind, I'm like, when I break from people, I don't want nothing to do with them. You separate your stuff, separate my stuff or whatever. You stay over there, I'm going to stay over here. Because if we have interaction or something and it don't go right, then something bad can happen, and I don't need that. So I'm trying to mitigate that situation. I'm trying to prevent that from happening. I don't want no chance of nothing ever happening, because I got things I got to do in my life. I got things that going on. I might have a career, might have things that I'm working on or projects I'm working on. I got people that depend on me for other stuff. So I'm like, I can't be tied up with you and messed up with you because you're an idiot. That's not what I want. So I'm going to make a clean break. So I don't think necessarily that he's thinking they might get back together. He might need to get out there and get burnt up a little bit in these streets. This is wild out here right now. There's a lot going on out in these streets right now. So he might need to go out there, get a little taste of that, and then figure he's coming back. He'll probably figure that out. But it looks like right now, I don't think that he's trying to come back. I think he's just got a convenient place to leave his stuff right now, and he's kind of preventing her from moving on. So that might be what's really going on in that situation. So she can put his stuff in one room or whatever, like she said, though. Listen, this is my space. If I'm paying rent here or I'm paying a mortgage in this space or whatever, I need to be able to use this space. This can't be for your stuff. So she probably should tell him, listen, you need to come get your stuff or it's going to be outside. So, and if it goes outside, I can't control what happens to it when it's outside, and you can't be mad because I told you come get it. So she needs to put the ultimatum down where he needs to come get it, but that kind of creates a situation where now they got to interact, and it's going to be something that's confrontational. So the best thing to do is try to get it in a place where, mention it to him, talk to him about it or whatever, and kind of lay down the gauntlet, like, hey, if you ain't here by this time to get your stuff, this stuff is going to be gone. So you left it in my house. I got possession of it. Possession is 9/10 of the law. I own it, right? So that's the way I would be. I'll be like, look, you need to come get your stuff or it ain't going to be here. All right, let's get in our last one for this particular show. This was from British Knights 33. Oh, the British Knights. I remember the British Knights. Had a pair of those or whatever. But I think I remember them being like something happened with them where they racist or something like that. The company was racist or whatever. We stopped wearing them or whatever. But I remember the British Knights, though. They was fly little shoes. How forgiving are you? Says British Knights 33. Posting here because my husband and I are so close to getting a divorce. So we're talking about a married woman here. So she says, my husband and I have been married for almost 2 years. I got pregnant last year, and that's when things started to go downhill. Nothing too crazy, just spats here and there. But as of last November, our marriage has been on the sharpest of rocks. We decided to start marriage counseling, and this will certainly be a last resort. If I don't see accountability and improvement from the first few sessions, I will file. Okay, so she's not playing no games right now. So she got a new baby. She said she got pregnant last year, so I'm assuming that the baby's here or whatever. So she's laying down the gauntlet. She ain't playing no games right now. So I think maybe sometimes you got to be a little more patient, but we're going to get into whether she could be patient or not in this situation or why she's not patient. It says, to keep this short, my ultimate question is, if your spouse or ex-spouse has or had said some hurtful things to you, were you able to forgive and move past it? Understanding that what's categorized as hurtful is subjective. Okay, so she understands that, that's the same thing that was running through my mind as soon as I read it. Like, you're talking about words here, and what hurts one person may not hurt the other person. It depends on how invested they are, right? So just answer from your point of view, right? If his behavior changes for the better, I could move past and continue to work on the marriage. But I don't know if I could ever forgive and feel like that'll forever be in the back of my mind. Granted, these hurtful comments I'm referring to were made in the past 2 weeks, so it's a fresh wound and I still don't know. All right, so she says basically like things were okay, I guess, probably in the marriage. They've been married, what, 2 years, right? So I'd imagine that first year was okay. It's always lovey-dovey and cool in the first year. And then, of course, getting pregnant, within the second year or whatever, that can be a big thing. Hormones change, things change, bodies change. If this is his first child and probably the first time living with a woman while she's pregnant, at least, maybe wasn't ready for her hormonal changes. She's not saying how she was acting during that time or what she was doing maybe to get on his nerves during that time or how she was running him around. We know how women can be when they get pregnant. Hormones change and things change or whatever. They can have certain demands and they could be emotional in a certain way. All of this is physiological, right? Things in the body that she might not even have control over, right? And then she's in a situation where she deserves and she needs compassion. She's going to need somebody to really dote on her a little bit, take care of her in a certain way. And maybe she felt like she didn't get that. And as men, especially maybe if this is a first child or whatever in a marriage and all that kind of stuff, our mindset is, we need money. I got to get money because I got to take care of my family. I got to support my child. A lot of things are coming up here. We might have to change cars. We do all types of things. So our mindset is maybe not on her 100%. Our mindset might be on some financial stuff. So maybe he was ignoring her a little bit or whatever. And of course, then, you're going to get that little spat here and there or whatever. Maybe he feels like he's got to dedicate his time to something else and he doesn't have the time for her in the moment and she wants his time right in the moment. And if he can't give it to her, then she starts a little tit for tat and a little jabs, right? Normally it's not the man that's going to start that. Normally the woman is going to start a little jab because she's just trying to get that attention out of him. And sometimes it's done in a negative way, right? So she's not really saying what's happened. We just speculating right here. We just spitballing and seeing what we come up with. But now she says as of last November, the marriage has been on the sharpest of rocks, right? 2 years in, you're already having to seek marriage counseling. That tells me that you didn't build a great foundation to begin with. That tells me that maybe you didn't know the person that you married very well. You probably didn't spend a whole lot of time getting to know this person, or you jumped in and you were in too deep before you ever got a chance to really know what you were dealing with. And now we're talking about words, right? Once again, we're talking about hurtful words. So when people are angry, people react a different way. They say things maybe they don't necessarily mean. You just had his child, so I'm sure he probably loves you. He probably wants to take care of you. He's worried about taking care of the child. He has stresses too that are coming from a different place because now he's the provider. He's recognized that he's got two lives at least that are, dependent upon him. And if he feels unappreciated in that situation, it's going to be real tough, right? He's not going to be happy on a day-to-day basis, and he's going to grow resentful because he's going to be like, okay, well, I got this responsibility. I'm doing the best I can to take care of them. And she seems like she doesn't respect that and she doesn't appreciate that. And the last thing you want to be is unappreciative to your man. So as men, that's something that we see. Like, I'll give. I'm the kind of person I'll give too. We're very giving people normally as men. We're bred to kind of give and provide, right? But the minute I see that you're not appreciative, I turn. Something in me turns. I'm like, oh wow, you just think like, all of this comes out of thin air. It's like somebody, you don't know what I had to go through to kind of get, to where I can make you smile. You don't know what I had to do. So I want you to appreciate that. And if you can't appreciate that, then we got a problem. And so maybe some words might get said. I'm a Gemini, I speak my mind. Some words might get said. And maybe it's not something that I really mean. Now, I'm the kind of person, I'm going to say, if I said it, I meant it, because I'm going to be very blunt. I'm going to be telling the truth, because I feel like people don't normally get it until you say something kind of harsh to them sometimes. because sometimes they're listening to respond, right? So you might be having a conversation, they're not listening to anything you're really saying, they're not internalizing any of it, they're not processing any of it, and they're just waiting for their chance, or maybe just butting in to say what they got to say. I mean, I find that happening here. I don't know, I think it's a Brazilian thing or whatever, but they just tend to just talk over you. And it's like you haven't even got the idea out yet, and they're talking over you, and they'll just talk over you. And it's like I've had to stop a couple of girls, like, look, don't talk over me when I'm speaking. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I got something that I'm saying, and if I'm expressing something, you need to be internalize it, because when you talk over me when I'm speaking, I know that you're not listening to nothing that I'm saying. And if we're having a conversation about something that's going to benefit you, and you need me to create that benefit, then you need to listen to what I'm talking about. You know, you're going to hear me out and hear what I'm saying, because I may be saying things that are pertinent to you. So you can't just be listening to respond. You know, maybe that's the situation or whatever, and he feels unappreciated. So she's not telling us that side of it. So maybe he's saying words or things like that, or he said some things that may not appeal to her, and she might still be going through some postpartum stuff or whatever like that too, some depressions and all this kind of stuff. She could be going through all of that. So now we're talking about a lot of human emotions. We're talking about chemistry, science, all those types of things are happening. And everybody's not going to be in a place where they're going to be cordial and friendly, and it's not going to feel great all the time. I don't think that it's something that you just divorce the person over. I don't even think at this level it's something that needs marriage counseling, really. I think this is something that two adults should be able to actually come together and have conversation about. You need to be able to have communication with one another. Communication is going to be 100% of the reason why you are failing in your marriage a lot of times, right? So if you can't communicate with one another without a third party, then, you know, you guys have not set the right foundation for your relationship. You need to be able to communicate. So you got to be able to go to him at some level and say, hey, listen, this is what the issue is. And sometimes don't go directly to the issue, right? Don't go directly to it. Oh, you did this, and then it becomes a shouting match between who did what, right? Don't approach it that way. Find another way to approach it and go around or whatever like that and bring it up. And don't be accusatory. Try not to be inflammatory to the situation. You know how it is when things get inflamed or whatever, and words start to escalate or whatever, and it starts to just grow and starts to fester and starts to become something that maybe you didn't intend it to become, but now your ego won't allow you to back down. You don't want it to get to that place. You want to be able to have a decent conversation. So just approach it a different way. All I'm going to say is like, oh, some words were said or whatever like that. I would approach it more like in a complimentary fashion. Hey, listen, you're my husband. I married you for this reason, that reason, whatever. I love you. Thank you for providing for me, even though they feel like, oh, that's just your job. No, thank him for providing for you. Thank him. Ask him if there's anything that's really bothering him or anything that's stressing him out or whatever that you can help with. You may not be able to do nothing to help him, but he's going to feel like you have concern for him. And then wait a couple of days or whatever, do a little bit more of that. Bring them back around. You got to bring them back around. It's like when you go fishing and you catching a fish or whatever, the fish don't just jump in your boat. You're going to have to reel it in. Sometimes that fish going to take off running and you ain't going to be able to reel them in. All you can do is let it run. When they get tired, you start reeling it in slowly but surely, reel it in. So you don't have to do this all in one day. You don't have to spend money on counselors or whatever. If it gets to the point where you feel like, you know what, we're just not able to communicate or see eye to eye, and maybe we could use a third party in the situation, fine. I don't think this particularly is a situation where you need a third party at this point. I think that you just need to learn how to treat each other better when you're having communication and when you're trying to talk. So I'm going to let y'all tell me what y'all think about it, you know, in the comments or whatever. How did you overcome maybe a situation where words got said and maybe it wasn't something so nice? How did you get past that situation with your significant other, or did it actually end up in divorce? Y'all let me know. Once again, it's the Big D. Thanks for checking this out. Peace. Hey, don't forget to check out my channel, Brazil Living, here on YouTube. This channel is designed for individuals who want to maybe move to Brazil as an expat or maybe stay long term. I want to be able to show you the lifestyle, things to avoid, things to get into, and how to have fun when you're here in Brazil. I also wrote a book. It's called The Brazil Experience, that is available on Amazon. I'll go ahead and put the link in the description below so that you have access to it. But you're going to need great information if you come this way. And so being here 6 years, I have a lot of that information that's going to be able to help you. I also do consultations that can help you as well. So thanks again. Have a great one. Peace.
Eyes bright, skin popping, smelling right, luscious lips.